Hey, this is Kyle from Grow Now Marketing with Jan Mirchandani from Westchester Marketing Cafe. And today she's going to be telling you about a free tool that's available to everyone, actually, that you can use to make much smarter and much more profitable business decisions. In fact, she's going to tell you a story about people that found some actually hidden customers or hidden money because they were about to abandon a strategy that was actually working. And had they not used this tool, they'd be stuck. All right, so Jan?
Anytime I'm talking about marketing metrics, I always like to start with one of my favorite quotes from John Wanamaker. He's sort of like the godfather of modern marketing, and he is famous for saying, half of the money that I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. So, yeah. So,
That's good.
yeah, it's worth noting. So, it just sort of, puts you in the mindset of, that some of the money is going to, not hit it out of the park for you. So you want to do more of what is working and less of what's not working. So understanding the difference and where you're making good decisions and where you're not is going to help with that. So
And do you find, because I find a lot of times that people will make decisions on maybe something that they read, they read
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, that's no good anymore. Don't use
Right.
email marketing.
Yeah.
Or they'll make a decision just purely on gut feel, which a lot of times, I got to tell you, it's not right. It's just not right. It's not, it's
Yeah.
wrong. Like your gut feeling, there's so many things that influence it.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things that I like to do is, we're really talking about Google Analytics. There's a lot of other, there's other tools
Don't be
out
scared.
there. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I
You're
know.
safe.
I
It's a
know.
safe place.
But it is a free tool, and it's amazing. A lot of our clients are using it and either aren't looking at it, or they're not using it, or they're using it but they don't have access to the back end, whatever. But it's a free tool that anybody can set up an account. It's actually quite easy. You can work with
It's
your
like
IT.
5 minutes, right?
Yeah, probably,
Maybe.
if that.
Yeah.
If you're a slow typer or something like that, it'll take
Like
you
me.
5 minutes, right? Exactly. But you can work with your IT department to get that code put onto your website. And then it just, it's tracking what's happening on your website, what pages people are clicking on, where they're coming from.
So people could, a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to make this article about this, and they think this is going to be a killer, and
Right.
maybe they get a couple of their friends to go, oh, that's good, but
Right.
is it really?
Right.
Right. So
Right.
that's why this is such a critical thing. This is like having, I don't know, your mother or something. That's probably not a good way to say it. But it's checking with the real reality is
right.
what it is.
It is a reality check, and that's a great way of looking at it, is that it really is telling you objectively, what the data is showing, where people are coming from, what are they looking at. So one of the, we have a slide actually, it's what I affectionately call my Foder's guide. So we can go to the next slide. So,
Let's just see that slide.
so yeah, it's my, the little translation tool that helps people see, what is happening, but you need to be able to speak the language. There you go. How are you when you're in this scary new world? What are some of the words and some of the terminology that you need to understand? So just sort of a quick overview, and for some of some of our audience, they probably are familiar with some of this, but it bears repeating. Your bounce rate, which a lot of people think of as like, oh, is it good? Is it bad? Well, it depends. But basically a bounce is when somebody comes to your website, they're not going to live there forever. They're going to come and eventually go away.
You hope.
You hope, right? A lot of corpses,
It'd be creepy.
right? Exactly. But when they come, do they not interact at all with your website and then just leave? That's obvious. That's a bounce. They land and go away. So you do want to pay attention to them, and that's one of your key metrics, and you want to understand what that is versus somebody just leaving your website.
So I don't want to derail you on this,
Right.
but I know if somebody's going to be saying, yeah, I got one of those. I got a pretty high one. What would you recommend, just if you can, there's like a single thing or two things that people could do to reduce that? in order to make to make people stay on their site longer. Of course, you can't do it for everyone. But.
Right. And I would also, I also caution people to think about, because people ask me all the time, well, what's a good, bounce rate, or when is it too high? I'm like, I kind of joke. I'm like, my answer to any question that you ask me will be, it depends. That's my standard disclaimer. And the bounce rate thing is no different. It really depends, because if somebody's coming to your website and they're just looking for your phone number,
right?
Then you know what? If you get
Right.
100% bounce rate because everybody's getting your phone number, picking up the phone to call you, and then leaves, then that's actually a really good thing. If they're, if they're going to your article pages that you just spent, a lot of time writing an article or doing a video or something like that, then obviously you don't want a high bounce rate. So you really have to understand what it is your visitors are trying to accomplish when they go to your website. To even make a determination about what what your bounce rate should be, and it's going to vary depending on where on the website they are. So
Which is really, it's a key point, because that's a problem I see all the time. It's just this generalization.
Right,
It's just
right.
like a generalized, the bounce rate is bad, we've got to do something about it. Well,
Right.
like you said, if they're looking for phone number, they're
Yeah.
getting calls.
right,
That's a good thing.
right. So it really is. You really have to understand what your goals are. And so you can't make any decisions without understanding what it is that you're trying to do. So that's the first thing. And then along with that is the exit page. Where are people leaving from? And again, anticipating your next question, well, where should they be leaving? It depends. I promise you.
Going to keep happening.
Yes, exactly. We're going to put that one on loop. If you're an e-commerce site, then hopefully most of your exit pages are going to be from your, thank you for your order page or your order confirmation page. If you're a blogger, it might be, confirmation of email signups or something like that. It's going to depend really what your goals are.
But I think what's really important about what you're saying is, again, like there's a theme here, and that is, have goals.
Right.
Because that's what Google Analytics is there really to measure. It's not
Right,
there to punish you
exactly, right.
and make you feel bad. It's there to say, like, are you getting closer or are you getting farther away? But
Right.
to know that, you've got to have a direction. It's like driving from here to San Francisco.
Right.
Right? How do you know if you're
Yeah.
closer or not if you don't know where you're going?
And that's a really key point, too, to sort of build on that, is really to think about, it's not a right or wrong answer. It's to just continually adjust and make better decisions based on the, relative success of what you've already been doing. So it's not like, it's not a switch where it's either on or it's off. It's just continually refining, doing less of what's not working for you or not showing results, and more of where there's, that we did really well. We have a lot of people who are getting to our goal thank you page through these particular steps. Let's see if we can improve those results. And, that's really what it's all about, is just continually getting better. The other key thing to really understand when you're looking at the analytics is the difference between new traffic and new visitors. New traffic is where people don't have cookies set. That's really all it is. It's not necessarily, these aren't like cast in stone. The way these metrics are being measured is through cookies. So if you come to my website you come to the website on Monday and a cookie is set on your browser, and then you come back Tuesday because you weren't able to finish the article or whatever it might be, then Google Analytics recognizes that cookie and says, oh, you're a returning visitor. Versus if you don't have cookies set, you start the article on Monday, you come back on Tuesday, it still sees you as a new visitor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important to kind of understand, these are sort of broad strokes. It's a guide, again, going back to what we were saying before, to help you get better. But it's not cast in stone as being, completely foolproof in terms of how these metrics are measured. And the other thing it's important to understand with the cookies is cookies get refreshed. So people will clear them, they'll clear the browser. So, again, it's, you're taking kind of generalities and trying to make some decisions based on, the trends that you're seeing, as opposed to, oh, we got one more click today. So we're going to, throw out everything that we've done previously, because of that. You have to really drill down into the data. The other thing that's worth mentioning too is direct traffic is something that
Yes, the
it's a
bane
pain.
of my
Yes,
existence.
exactly.
Direct traffic. Yes.
Because direct traffic, for those of you who maybe don't know, is when Google is reading that somebody came directly to your website. So they opened up their browser and they theoretically typed in your URL and went right to your website. And for the most part, that's probably what's happening, although it depends. There's a lot of ways that can get sort of, those waters get muddied, and the biggest way is through JavaScript. So, in fact, we have a client that's a membership organization, and we were looking at their analytics, and it was really, really difficult to sort of, separate the wheat from the chaff, because they had all of those member links were set up through JavaScript. So everything was showing up as a direct link, and it wasn't really. I mean, we can reasonably assume that, 100% of the traffic going to members' profiles are not, that's not really direct traffic, but those are links that are coming from the home page. So to sort of simplify that, people who don't necessarily speak geek, JavaScript is it's a little bit of code. It's that will say, okay, if we're going, if we're here now, click and go there, right? Any Harry Potter fans know it's sort of like, transforming.
So you didn't know you're going to hear about Harry Potter and Google Analytics in the same.
There is
sentence.
no depth to there's no bottom to the level of my geekiness. I know it's true.
It's like geek cubed.
Exactly. So anyway, but that's what the JavaScript does. It sort of jumps you from one place to the next. But in that process, Google gets confused, and so it's tracking it as a direct visit as opposed to a link, and says, "Oh, well, this is where that traffic is coming from."
And so that they understand, like, why is that important, the whole direct traffic thing? Why is something like that? Some people go, okay, you talk about this Java Harry Potter stuff, but what
Right.
what does that mean to me?
So if you know that you're getting, I'll give you a perfect example. If you're paying for advertising somewhere, right, and say you're doing, you have traffic that's coming from your, wherever you're sponsoring. We had a client who happens to be a summer camp, and they were paying, whatever they were to advertise in a print magazine. And the client called me at the end of the summer, and he says, "You know what? I don't think we're going to renew this, the contract, because, nobody was talking about it. We didn't hear from anybody that they came from that." And so I said, "Well, before you, send the contract back, let me just take a peek and see what we can see." And so we went to their analytics, and through the user flow, we could see, well, X number of people ended up on that landing page, right? That thank you for registering your child. And we were able to go backwards through the user flow to actually see, well, prior to the thank you page, they were at the cart page. Prior to the cart page, they were on the information page so that they could fill in the information about their child. Prior to that, they were on the advertiser's site. So, and when they went backward, when we went backwards through that process, we could say pretty definitively they got 2 new summer campers from that one ad that ran. So, and then it becomes a math equation.
Yeah.
Again, more geeky stuff. Sorry, guys.
Yes.
But if you know that you're spending $500, I'm making up the numbers, but if you're paying $500 for a print ad, and in this particular case, you get 2 summer campers who maybe paid $300 each, well, at its face, you've made money, right? But when you multiply that now times how many years on average does a camper come back? So now it's not just that one time benefit that you've gotten the revenue from those two campers. You're getting, multiply that times now 3 summers on average, those campers will come back. Now all of a sudden it's a exponent of that number.
If there's one thing I say about that is that as business owners, you have to do that. You have to know your lifetime value of a customer.
Right.
You just, if you don't know that, you really don't shouldn't be advertising, because you have no number to tie it to.
Right.
Because on the surface you go, oh, I made $100. It's not worth it. But is that really all you did?
Right.
If you know, well, actually 75% of the people who came this year will come back next year until age 12, then you can use numbers to go, wow, actually that ad was not worth that. That ad was worth about $1,700 for us, right? So now it becomes a totally different ballgame, because you know what you're trying to do, and you're using these tools, which are free, and to really determine what you're doing.
Right.
Make better decisions.
Yeah. So, and we do actually have a slide somewhere, if I can come. This crazy Mac.
See, Mac bashing. It's not cool.
Yeah. So I mean, and here's the visual on that. So I mean, it's a nice, pretty little chart. So it's not really intimidating. And what we've done is we've highlighted this flow, so we can see where the people. This is an example. This isn't the same report, but you can see where they landed, the starting page, and then their first interaction. What's that first click that they went through? And the second interaction, and so forth. And you can keep pulling that out so that you can see however many clicks they've gone through. So if you are looking at this report and you find your thank you page, your confirmation page, your shopping cart page, you can highlight that section as we've done here, and then go backwards to see all of those previous pages. So again, going back to what we were saying before, how do you make incremental improvements to get better? So, in this particular example, we know that we've gotten 2 new campers from that landing page. They went to the landing page from the advertisers page, and they filled out the information, they paid, and then they got to the confirmation. Well, what if we make minor adjustments to that registration process? Or if we make a special customized form, or we can pre-fill it out, or do something that's specific to that advertiser, so they know, oh, you know what, they understand, I came from this source, they know a little bit about me, and it's you're customizing the language.
And one of the ways that you can really actually truly double your sales is to, but again, you have to know this, you have to have these numbers, is to start saying, okay, so how can we get more clicks to start with, right? How can we show the ad more so we get more clicks? And then how can we make the page better so it converts more people, right? So if you keep doing that on each step of the funnel, because this is really a funnel is what it is, then you start to see these things can more than double your sales, right? They can 6 extra sales but you got to know your numbers. Without it, you're just guessing and shooting in the dark. A website's definitely not a set and forget.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just not.
No, it's definitely not.
It's not a billboard.
No, well, that's exactly it. So, when you talk about funnels, so one of the other charts that I wanted to take a look at is the funnel visualization, and this is another chart. And we didn't really customize these too much. I mean, you can go right into your reports and click a couple of buttons and get here. This happens to be an example that we pulled off of lynda.com. But, what's telling with this particular chart is, especially if you have e-commerce, or if you have online registration or something like that, to be able to see a very defined process, and hopefully you do have we want to get them here, we want them to read quick overview of what we're offering, entice them, get them to fill out this form for more information or actually register. And what's really great with this particular chart is you can actually see, well, if I get X number of people, in this case almost 7,000 into my funnel, how many then go through to the next page or that next action, and then how many people go through to that following action. So you can start to see where those drop-offs happen. And that's when you can really start to make those intelligent decisions about, well, you know what, we see a lot of drop-off between page 2 and page 3. Can we consolidate those 2 pages to make it one, and then test that, and then see what happens with your data in terms of, are you then, if in the original scenario you're only getting 20% of the people from that land in your funnel through to that 3rd or 4th interaction, can you up that to 25 or 30% by consolidating 2 pages? And those are some of the things that you can really start to think about and test so that you can, keep, again, refining what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, this is really where you can find hidden money in your business, in a sense. And for those people who, a lot of people don't understand this whole idea of a funnel. And it's really just, it's actually, funnels are everywhere. And if you have a business and you've sold stuff, you have one. It may not be the best one, but but you have one, right? You can't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a perfect example of this I always think about is a restaurant, right? When you walk into a really nice restaurant, the hostess doesn't go, "You want chicken or you want fish? Which one?" You'd be like, "What? No, you can't make a decision there. That's not a good decision." They have a system, right? And it's very consistent.
Yeah.
You sit down, they give you free content. That free content's called water, right? Free water. And then they usually put, maybe sometimes they put a dip or something, chips and dip or whatever if you're in a Mexican place. But that's all there to make you relax, to make you feel good. Yep. Then they ask you for a drink. These are all, that's a funnel. That they know that will extract the most money from you if they do it that way, right? At no time does does the waiter come up and go, "Do you want dessert?" before he orders get drinks. It never, the sequence doesn't change, right? And in this case, you're just doing it online. You're moving a sales process, which is what that is, online. But this is the way to actually know how it's working, if it's working, and how can we make the incremental shifts. Like she just said, if you're getting a big drop off between the two pages, then maybe either change the copy on the pages or consolidate them. It's a great idea, right? And wow, how many less people? And that means more people showing up at the bottom with money in hand.
Well, and the other thing to think about too is that, are you getting the right people into the funnel in the first place? Because there is always going to be, you're never going to get 100%.
Right.
Right. I mean, obviously you want to get as many, the highest percentage that you can, but the way that you're going to do that is, getting the right people into the funnel so that you're not getting too many people, because then it distracts you from focusing on the people who are going to do business with you, who are the right clients for you, right, or the right customers for you. So making sure that you're sort of filtering out people who aren't qualified to start with, and then from there, making sure that process to get them from the the funnel opening through each of those sequential steps, that they're making the right decisions about doing potentially business with you, and that you are further weeding out people that aren't good prospects for you. So again, in terms of saving yourself time and money, the more you can clean up that process and streamline that process, then that's money in your pocket.
Okay, what else you got for us?
So the other thing,
do we need a new slide?
Yeah, actually, I apologize. I'm sort of jumping all over here because the conversation is very fluid.
We're way out of sequence.
I know,
our funnel is destroyed.
We're just having a conversation here. Just a couple of friends just talking about Google Analytics, as people do. So one of the things that I do see actually is a mistake that a lot of people make. And usually when I say this, people are like, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing." It is a thing. You want to make sure that you're filtering out your own traffic to your website. And we see this a lot. This is probably the most common mistake people make. And this is really important, especially if your website is very actively maintained, meaning you're adding a lot of fresh content frequently, which, again, you should be. You don't want to have your traffic being factored into how Google sees people behaving on your website, because you and your staff do not behave like your prospects do.
And be like, "These are the most engaged. This content is amazing."
Right, exactly.
People just stay on there for hours reading it.
Exactly. So, we have another client, it's a nonprofit. They have a lot of different events that they're doing and online registration. And so all of that activity has to be managed on the website. So they have staff that are constantly logging in, clicking on different pages. And when we looked at the analytics, I'm like, there's something weird going on here. So when we started to look at it, and then, of course, we realized pretty quickly that all of their traffic was getting lumped into their prospects and their patrons traffic, and obviously very, very different behavior sets.
And you just would do that through blocking an IP, really?
So you can either block an IP, depends. I mean, if you're on a WordPress website, there's actually plugins that will do that for you so that you can just filter out anybody who's an admin or an editor or whatever. But again, they have to be logged in order to do that. So my preference is to go into the admin section of your analytics and actually filter out and exclude. And this is the example of, exclude your home office. If you work from home, make sure that you're including that IP as one that's being excluded. If you have an office or if you have, people who are traveling. Sometimes you can't, especially if you have a sales team that's, they're traveling all over the place and it's not always a static IP. But, again, you do the best that you can to make sure that you're getting clean data. So.
All right. What else?
So what else?
Another one?
Yeah.
I see something there at the bottom.
Yeah. So now we're getting into the good stuff. So I know, save the best for last. This isn't the end, but so one of the things that people often get confused about is they don't realize that they can actually track offline campaigns as well as, like, if they're doing postcards or something, as well as actual like email campaigns or things like that. So you can do that. It's a little bit more technical. So if you have an IT team or interested in doing a little bit more research, but it's definitely worth it. Basically, what you're doing is you're creating a vanity or a custom URL. So in these two examples, it's wmc.com/analytics or wmc.com/GA. Those are they're very succinct. Easy to remember. You can do I've heard something like, for a trauma run or something like that, westchestermedicalcenter.com/trauma or something like that, where it's really quick, easy to remember. That's the advantage of doing it. And then what you do is, that's just a made up domain, but you create what's called a 301 redirect. So you're pointing anybody who types in wmc.com/analytics, you're pointing that traffic directly to any page that you want. It can be anything, and that's really useful, especially if you're doing like paid ads or something like that, or you're doing like a postcard campaign, but you want to drive them to a specific page on your website that might be kind of deep in your website. But this is a really easy way to get people to that page easily. You can print it, you can do, different versions, still directing them to the same thing, but what you're tracking is that vanity URL, so that if you have, in this case, the orange example, right, the wmc.com analytics, going to the same page as the /GA, but I'm tracking them separately. I have the orange version and the purple version.
It's like a split test.
Right, exactly. It's the A/B testing, and so that you can kind of track and see, well, the example, with the orange did really well, or the example with this particular image did really well, or the example that we mailed to the southern part of the county did better than the example that we sent to the northern part of the county. So it lets you start to do some of that A/B testing even with your offline campaigns. Or it could just be something as simple as we sent out a flyer about an event that we've got coming up. It lets you use a really simple URL, but send them deep into your website, and then you can track all of that and see how that stuff is doing for your offline stuff.
So super cool, and very. I don't think many people are doing this at all. This will really, you'll be able to use these amazing free tools to actually give you really good data on stuff that doesn't even happen the beginning of it doesn't happen online.
Right.
So super cool.
And we have clients all the time that spend a lot of money on postcards. The printing costs, the mailing costs, the design, the cost to have somebody, put together a professional design for you. There's a lot of money that goes into that. And so to be able to track that and see, well, not only are they going to the website, but they're going through and, where are they navigating from there? You can track that segment, though, just those folks that came from that postcard, and see what's happening on your website. So it's definitely worth kind of digging into that a little bit and tracking that information. And you're right, not a lot of people are doing it.
It's true. I mean, I when I was running Facebook ads, couple of years ago, I missed the whole offline conversion. So, you'd have part of that funnel. And when I finally realized, I was like, "Ew," because
Yeah.
it really changed everything. Once we could really track, we just would work with the office and go, how many clients did you get? Because a lot, it didn't happen online. And
Right.
so once that happened, it really exploded, and we were able to triple our results from that. So
Right.
super cool.
Right.
Really, really good.
Yep. So, and the other thing is too that a lot of people aren't doing is something similar, even with like your email campaign, is creating very similar. You create sort of a custom URL, and you can track those as they go into. So now, not only are you, I mean, you can, most of us know at this point that you can see who opens your emails and who clicks on the links in your email, but to be able to go into your Google Analytics and put them in a specific bucket of data that you can see, well, the people who clicked on this campaign then went through to these pages, and you can really now follow them, even if you're not using a fancy program like HubSpot or something like that is completely integrated. For those of us who are smaller businesses, it's not always an affordable option, but you can do this completely, like you're saying, for free. Google Analytics is a free tool. MailChimp is certainly an affordable, or Constant Contact, an affordable option for email campaigns. And it's really giving you sort of that same, those same information points by doing it this way. And do we have one more?
Do we have one more?
Okay.
All right, hold on. What do we got?
I can't say.
Are you sure? What's this one?
Email. This is what I was talking
Here we
about.
are.
Yeah, exactly.
Email.
There you go. So I think we still have our little screen up.
Yeah.
So this is a report. One of the things that I've been really active with lately is setting up custom URLs, just like we were looking at. And this is a report that lets me really see all of my different campaigns. Excuse me, and how many, so this is, the last couple of campaigns that we sent out, how many visitors we got, where they went, and what was really interesting with this is, we have a very specific onboarding campaign. So when people join our mailing list, they get a welcome email, and then they get a follow-up email a couple of days later, and I have those broken out so I can see, who's clicking on the welcome email, who's clicking on the follow-up email, and then, where do they go from there? What's the bounce rate? How much time are they spending on the page? And they don't get kind of just dumped into, everybody else who clicks on the emails. I can separate them out, and setting up a tracking code for that is really key to getting this data.
And some people might go, oh my God, this is just so technical. It's going to take forever. It really doesn't take forever. Maybe the first time it does, but it doesn't take forever. And the amount of actually basically money that you save, that you can repurpose is well worth it. I mean, if you were paying an efficiency expert, they probably wouldn't be nearly this good. Right? So if you hired a consultant to be more efficient, they would not be nearly this good, because they wouldn't have access to all this data. Right? They wouldn't. This is like being able to spy on people in a sense. In a sense, in a good way.
In a sense, yeah, not individual. You're looking at trends. I know, because people do get really freaked out when I start to. They're like, "Well, how do they know?" You're not like this example.
It allows you to serve them better.
Right.
Right. To the end of the day.
And you're not really like, in this particular example, I'm seeing who that clicks came through from an email campaign, and then where those clicks went through. It's anonymous data, so it's not. Don't get me wrong, Google is totally spying on you, but
remember, as my friend says, if it's free, you're the product.
Right, exactly. But it does give you intelligence about where am I going to spend my time, where am I going to spend my energy, and there's a lot of kind of quick tricks that you can, as you continue to get better. One of the things that we've done that's really helped me become much more efficient at this is I have an editorial calendar where I list out every month, what the campaign is going to be about, which segments are getting which, and then in order to do the custom URL, Google has it, and I don't have a slide for it, so I apologize. But people can reach out, I guess, to you, and we can get that to them if they want.
To Jan. How would they get a hold of you?
WestchesterMarketingCafe.com, and you can certainly email me at Jann, Jann, at WestchesterMarketingCafe.com. But the tool, and you can Google it, it's a Google query tool. and it lets you put in all of that information so that you can track, where the landing URL is, and all of that information, the campaign name, and different goodies in terms of pushing all of that data through to Google Analytics so you can get some even better information. So that's a quick tool too.
Yeah, and it's actually possible for, I don't know, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, Google came out with a ZMOT study. Do you remember this? It was the zero moment of truth, and it said, they used to say that it took 6 points of contact to have somebody buy something, and they said, no, it's more like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
It was one of those two. But because of these tools, if you will spend the time setting it up front, it can track people all through, the myriad of different devices and different steps. And you can really know what's working and stop guessing and stop wasting money, so that you can put Mr. Wanamaker to shame.
That's right. Yeah, so it'd only be a quarter.
Yeah, it's only going to be a quarter.
Well, that's it. Is you just keep getting better, and and I can just tell you from our experience is, really focusing on email segmentation, which is a whole other conversation, but tracking that data and what's happening with our email segmentation and translating that to what's happening on our website. Getting better about really targeting articles that we're writing and pushing those out. We're getting more contact form completions. We're getting more people subscribing to our newsletter, people who, from all over that, we haven't met before personally. It's not like, I'm meeting them at networking events or things like that. But we're definitely seeing an uptick in all of these metrics ourselves, just because we keep kind of focusing on, and it's not a full-time job. We're not saying, go in every day and get into the minutia. I always counsel people. It's like, this is not your new full-time job. Please
Hopefully.
Please don't. But at least once a month, go in and kind of take a look at the trends of what's happening, and then you can make those intelligent decisions based on what you're seeing and save time and money.
Right, based on what's actually happening rather than someone's opinion.
Right.
Which seems safer, but ultimately is a disaster.
And that's it too. I'll give you another example, another real world example. We have another client who, we're in the process of redoing their website, and I've been going a little bit head to head with some of the folks on the team.
Really?
And I know.
No way.
I'm so easygoing. I don't know how that happens, but we keep going back to them like, this is what the data is showing us. It happens to be a transactional website where people are, we're trying to get, people want to go to the website, they want to click on an event and check out. And it's taking on average 4 minutes for somebody, to do something that should take them a minute tops. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but think about how often you get annoyed when you're just trying to check out. And when you look at shopping cart abandonment rates, it doesn't take 3 minutes for people to get pissed off and leave.
Yeah.
It takes them about 30 seconds.
And then even if you use something like retargeting on those people, they're not coming back.
Yeah, they already hate
they're
you.
angry.
Yeah, they already hate
like,
you. And that's,
no thanks.
Right, exactly. And so, so that's where, it's not my opinion that the process should be easier. That's the data saying the process has to be easier. So when, you're evaluating that whole process of, what's that project management look like? Where's our time and energy going towards, rejiggering the website? It has to be on the shopping cart. So
data-driven marketing. There you go. That should be a company name. It probably is.
It probably is.
If not, I'm taking it.
There you go.
All right. So this has been Jan Mirchandani and Kyle McMurray from Grow Now Marketing and Westchester Marketing Cafe.
Yes.
Right? We both got marketing in that
Yep.
name. And we hope you enjoyed this. Right? And so you have any questions, please, you can post them in the comments below. We'll both respond to those.
Yep.
And you can always contact Jan at, what's that again?
WestchesterMarketingCafe.com.
All right. Of course, Grow Now Marketing as well. You can always message either one of our pages
Yep.
as well on Facebook. So until next time, remember, if I can find out where we are here, where are we? Oh my God.
Does anybody really know? Such an existential question.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to get out of here somehow. But until next time, remember, you're always just one great marketing and advertising campaign away from the business of your dreams. So we'll see you next time if we can actually leave.